568 Coming Home, Mashyach, Messiah, 12. Stand out and be noticed. In the Spirit of Yah, Dowd, David represents far more than one man. He is Yehudah and Yisrael. Here is proof. A song, shir, lyrics and melody with instrumentation for singing, for the thoughtful ascent, harmala, for the steps of those walking up the stairway on the ultimate journey of the mind to the most elevated destination, from Ma, to ponder the implications of Allah, ascending. During troubling circumstances, while being confined and diminished by the pen of a vexing rival, Bahazara, in times of anguish and distress over being limited by a direct competitor, having my scope and purpose narrowed by the foe of mine, La Eni, I summoned and called out, Kara, I invited and welcomed, I met with and encountered, I read aloud and recited, 2, Yahowah, Yahowah, an accurate transliteration of the name of Eloah, God guided by his Torah, instructions regarding his higher existence and our shalom, reconciliation, and he answered me, Wa Ana Eni, and he replied, responding to me. Mizmor, lyrics to sing, Psalm 121. This is the first time we have heard of it, and yet, just as we should have expected, Dowd wrote a song for us to sing as we thoughtfully ascend to heaven. Throughout our journey of discovery through the Word, we will sing his songs as we explore life, dimensions and time. And at any 569 point along the way, should we find ourselves in troubling circumstances, we can call upon Yahowah and expect him to answer. Enduring Zara places Dowd in Yisrael's shoes, as we quickly approach the time of Jacob's Zara, troubles in which the tiny nation will be Zara, diminished in size, constrained and restricted. In Dowd's case, it is a Zara, vexing rival named Shaul, Paul who would impose these limitations, attempting to reduce Dowd to a mere sperm donor. When we Kara, invite Yahowah into our lives, he Anna, responds. The reciprocal should also be true. It is in our interests to Anna, answer each of God's 7 annual Kara, invitations to meet with him. However, should we prefer the siren song of another, and have our vessel lured to its demise, there are less credible options. But be aware, in this prophetic supplication, the lip, the liar, the treacherous tongue, and the source promoting false beliefs is singular. Dowd was inspired to write this about one extraordinarily duplicitous and deceitful, albeit popular, individual. Yahowah, Yehovah, you and I are in accord because it is my decision and your will to deliver and spare. Natsal, you want what I desire, which is for you to rescue, defend, and save. Hyphal imperative paragogic cohortative second person masculine singular, my soul, Nipesheni, my consciousness, my ability to be observant and respond, my inner nature including my attitude and attributes, from the misleading and deceptive lips of the liar, Bin Safasaka, from false and mistaken speech, from the language of the irrational and unreasonable one, and from the mouth that utters vain, fraudulent, and incorrect statements, and from the treacherous tongue promoting false beliefs, Min Lashon Ramaya, away from the dim-witted and sloppy 570 words, from the tongue which is uncontrolled and undisciplined. Mizmor, lyrics to sing, Psalm 122. There is no excuse for the toxic implications of Christianity because tens of millions of Yahweh Jews suffered abuse and death as a result of the religion. What began with Shaul, Paul would become the world's most lethal plague. Having written 4 volumes exposing and condemning Paul, I can attest that his every word was misleading. He penned irrational letters and spoke in unreasonable fashion. He knowingly perpetrated a deliberate fraud. Shaul was also undisciplined, and dim-witted. He constantly contradicted himself and committed all manner of logical fallacies. By using Sakar and Ramaya, Dowd correctly assessed his foe. These questions also pertain to one individual man. What will be set forth and appointed because of you, Mar Nathan Laughter, who and what will be presented and offered by you, placed and put before you, and appointed and brought about concerning you? Why are you carrying on this way? How much more of this will be added by you in your repeated desire to create another edition? Wama Yazaf Laughter. So what additionally will come from you and what is the basis of your increases? Why are there different people associated with your undisciplined and deceitful tongue, Lashon Ramaya, on account of your treacherous statements and false beliefs, because of your misguided and misconstrued words, even your spoken deceptions and outright fraud? Mizmor, lyrics to sing, Psalm 123. It is a perplexing question. Why would a Jew create a religion designed to degrade and demonize Jews? Of all people, why rob God's Son, the Messiah, Savior, and 571 King? Why misquote the Torah to justify a religion based upon contradicting and disparaging Yah's testimony? Why would anyone put their faith in a religion when its most prolific author claimed that God authorized him to negate all of his previous promises? How did a religion so obviously fabricated upon irrationally misappropriating what Yahowah said of Dowd and Yisrael deceive billions? life's greatest enigma, is the enduring popularity of Paul, who lied through his teeth and was obviously demon-possessed. This is why rabbis sought to counter the irrational appeal of Shaul's religion with lies of their own instead of simply disproving it. It had to be disappointing and embarrassing for the Messiah and Son of God. His people denied his courageous achievement of providing their very salvation. The divisive projectiles, the weapons and missiles which create separation along with the piercing darts which divide, from chatsets, to divide and separate, of the Yahowah, competent and courageous defender, Yahowah, of the empowered champion who is an impactful leader, the manly man and hero of God's story, are sharp, piercing, Shannon, cutting, and burning, like a bolt of lightning, Imgakal, with hot embers and live coals, to bind up and sweep away, Ratham, to attach to a broom. Mizmor, lyrics to sing, Psalm 124. Dowd is the Yahowah, courageous and competent defender of Israel. And his most divisive projectiles are words like these. No one wielded them with greater aplomb. His rhetoric is piercing and his wit sharp, collectively as focused, powerful, and explosive as a bolt of lightning. As for Ratham, we have insufficient data to be definitive in deducing its intended meaning. However, 572 based upon its infrequently used actionable root, after piercing his foe and incinerating his absurd proposition, Dowd intends to collect the resulting carnage and sweep it away. This next line is also thought-provoking. This distressing warning from me, O Yelani, this is troubling and intensely sorrowful to me and it serves as notice from me, is because, expressly for the reason and as a result of the fact, for a period of time, I have endured as an alien to be conspired against, I dwelt as a stranger and experienced attacks, perfect, literally at some point in time, by being seized control of and dragged away, Mashyach, by being drawn out and pulled away over a prolonged period of time, being taken possession of, son of Japheth, grandson of Noach, such that I have dwelt, shaken, I closely associated with foreigners, from Jacob, to lie within the sense of having sexual relations and shaker, to lustfully copulate, perfect, among, with and near, the tents, Ohol, of Kedar, darkness and mourning, Kedar, to be dimmed and darkened, grieving as a result of having no access to the light, son of Ishmael, a nomadic tribe from the Arabian desert serving as a harbinger of Islam. Mizmor, lyrics to sing, Psalm 125. Mashyach is mentioned in Bersith, Genesis 10:2 as one of Noach's grandsons through Japheth. His brothers included Magog and Tubal who were immortalized in Ezekiel, Satan's autobiography. Satan would fantasize that Gog from Magog would wage war against Israel just prior to his triumphant arrival in Jerusalem as the peacemaker. During the devil's grand celebration, which I have dubbed the Feast of the Beast, Dowd is on the menu. The participants are encouraged to eat his flesh and drink his blood in keeping with the Roman Catholic Eucharist. Therefore, this distressing warning from Dowd is an 573 admonishment encouraging Israelites to avoid becoming entangled in Ezekiel's wicked web. Apart from Ezekiel, the other mention of Mashyach is found in a retelling of Noach's genealogy in 1 Chronicles 1:5. Therefore, Mashyach isn't a place but, instead, a clue. The verbal root, Mashyach, speaks of seizing control of someone, drawing them out, dragging and pulling them away from something over a prolonged period of time and then acquiring it, taking possession of it for oneself. And curiously, Mashyach is listed immediately after Mashyah, Messiah in each of the many Hebrew lexicons in my possession. And that's one hell of a clue since this is precisely what Peter and Paul did when founding the Christian religion. Even if we were sufficiently ignorant to take Ezekiel's bait and pretend that Mashyach described a geographical location associated with Noach's grandson, it would have been in Anatolia, modern Turkey, and likely in the region between the shores of the Black Sea to the Caucasus Mountains. These are places where Dowd never tread. Kedar, darkness and mourning is a bit more complicated because, while it makes an appearance in Ezekiel, it describes a location in Arabia in both Yashar and Yirmiyah. However, it is obviously another clue because being a descendant of Ishmael, causing grief, personifying darkness, and coming out of Arabia collectively scream Islam, where Satan is worshipped as God and Jews are hunted as prey. Therefore, Kedar is a dire warning. Nonetheless, should you prefer to limit Kedar to an unknown place in Arabia, Dowd was never there. And this means that we must translate the word to understand its intent. 574 To explain Dowd's whereabouts, it is germane to state that his battles on behalf of Yahweh and Israel were defensive, and thus limited to enemies trying to invade his nation. He was not a conqueror seeking to expand his realm. Accordingly, he had no reason to chase nomads through the Arabian desert nor seek to subdue the Hittites, who likely controlled the area attributed to Mashyach at this time. That said, by tracing the migration of Israelites using DNA to affirm our findings, we discover that Jews have not only lived in Anatolia and Arabia, but those who hate them occupy both today. Therefore, if we were to view these as places, Dowd has become synonymous with his people, Yahweh, Jews, and is serving as a harbinger of the one attacking them during the time of Jacob's troubles. When we put the clues together, we find Dowd warning Israel about Ezekiel, Christianity, and Islam. He is saying that Christians will attempt to steal his Messiah title, and that Muslims will seek to kill them. For too long, among far too many, I had remained, shaken, I had been closely associated with foreigners, from Shacob, to lie within the sense of having sexual relations and Shaker, to lustfully copulate, Cal perfect, from 4 QPS versus Mount my soul lived for itself, among, with and around, those who oppose, sane, of those who shun and abhor, who refuse and hate, Cal participle, reconciliation, even the peace and prosperity enjoyed in a harmonious relationship, Shalom, salvation or satisfaction. Companionship or safety, even contentment from a more favorable circumstance. Mizmor, lyrics to sing, Psalm 126. It is exasperating that father and son would so meticulously lay out such a marvelous means to reconcile our relationship, only to have mankind reject it and then 575 replace their plan with one in conflict with it. Worse, the religious would either usurp God's title and label their approach Torah, or they would tack their contrarian propositions onto the conclusion of Yahweh's book, having the audacity to claim that God inspired their contradictions. This pronouncement is as damning to Judaism as it is to Christianity. By denying the fulfillment of Chag Matzah, by dissociating Dowd from it, and by upending the intent of Kippurim, rabbis deceitfully robbed Jews of the opportunity for reconciliation while estranging all who believe them from Yahowah. And yet, rather than admitting to their actions in opposition to father and son, they continue to justify their malfeasance throughout the Talmud, now called Torah. Over his 3 lifetimes, Dowd came to epitomize many things, from Israel to the Berith, from poet to prophet, from the Messiah to king, and from warrior to savior. High among these equivalencies, Dowd is all about Shalom, of which he is both a proponent and contributor. I am restitution, restoration, and reconciliation in a completely satisfying and harmonious relationship providing salvation and contentment, any Shalom, I am for favorable treatment and contentment, companionship and friendship, peace and prosperity, and yet, when, I speak, sharing my message, Dabar, I verbalize or write these words, Peel imperfect, they are combative and promote conflict, Hemlahar Milchima, they are prone to draw up battle lines and fight as if going to war. Mizmor, lyrics to sing, Psalm 127. Dowd is the means to restitution, restoration, and reconciliation. He is our Savior. When we accept what he has accomplished, we enter into a completely satisfying and harmonious relationship with our Heavenly Father. He 576 stated his intentions and then delivered as promised. This message reverberates throughout the Mizmor and Nabi, and yet, rather than being enthusiastically accepted, the religious are combative, promoting conflict in lieu of Shalom. The opening phrase, any Shalom, I am restitution, is bereft of a verb, such that Dowd is simply equating himself with all that Shalom represents. And while Shalom is rich in meaning and entirely positive and beneficial, we gain a better appreciation of our Messiah's offer when we consider Shalom, its actionable root. Shalom speaks of providing recompense and restitution, of restoring a fractured relationship, by paying the debt of another, thereby, making amends. I have accepted his generous offer while the religious have rejected it. As a result, I am included in the covenant and assured of entering heaven while the adherents of Judaism and Christianity exclude themselves from both. I am supportive while they are combative. I know and love Yah, just as they promote gods conceived in their image. I serve by revealing the truth without monetary compensation, and they expect the faithful to pay for their lies. While I have illuminated the way home on behalf of father and son by sharing their message to mankind, they remain combative, in abject conflict with the words God inspired. This is, indeed, a thoughtful presentation on how to ascend into the spiritual realm and live with our Father. A song, Shur, for the thoughtful ascent, Harmala. During troubling circumstances, while being confined and diminished by the pen of a vexing rival, Bahazara of mine, La Eni, I summoned and called out, Kara, 2, El, Yahowah, Yahowah, and he answered me, Wa Ana Eni. Mizmor 120-1. 577 Yahowah, Yahowah, you and I are in accord because it is my decision and your will to deliver and spare, Natsal, my soul, Nipesh Eni, from the misleading and deceptive lips of the liar, Min Safasaka, and from the treacherous tongue promoting false beliefs, Min Lashon Ramaya. Mizmor 120-2. What will be set forth and appointed because of you, Mar Nathan Laughter? Why are you carrying on this way? How much more of this will be added by you in your repeated desire to create another edition, Wamar Yazaf Laughter, with your undisciplined, and deceitful tongue deliberately perpetrating this outright fraud, Lashon Ramaya. Mizmor 120-3. The divisive projectiles, shays of the Yahowah, competent and courageous defender, Yahowah, are sharp, piercing, Shannon, and burning, like a bolt of lightning, in Gakkel, to bind up and sweep away, Ratham. Mizmor 120-4. This distressing warning from me, O Yalani, is because, ky, for a period of time, I have endured as an alien to be conspired against, by being seized control of and dragged away over a prolonged period of time, Mashyach, such that I have been associated with foreigners, shaken, among, the tents, Ohel, of darkness and mourning, Kedar. Mizmor 120-5. For too long, Rab, I had remained associated with foreigners, shaken, among, those who oppose, sane, reconciliation, even the peace and prosperity enjoyed in a harmonious relationship, Shalom. Mizmor 120-6. I am restitution, restoration, and reconciliation in a completely satisfying and harmonious relationship, providing salvation along with the means to favorable treatment, companionship, and contentment, any Shalom. And yet, when, I speak, sharing my 578 message, the bar, they are combative and promote conflict, Hemlaha Milchama. Mizmor, lyrics to sing, Psalm 127. There are additional prophecies pertaining to Dowd that I would like to reconsider at this time. The first of these we contemplated while composing observations. It is different from the others because it reveals that Yahowah chose someone to trumpet Dowd's accolades and achievements on behalf of his people. It begins, then a chota, a shoot or sucker from the stump, chota, a stem or secondary branch, a pliable instrument who is a secondary source of growth serving as a living entity delivering progeny, an observant individual who is willing to listen and who is committed to thinking and sharing what is most valuable, will be extended for a limited time, Yatsa, he will be brought forth to serve, Kal perfect active sequential third person masculine singular, by means of, min, out of, the stock, Gezer. The original stump and root from which new growth emerges, the trunk which has been cut down and yet is capable of supporting new shoots of Ishay, to stand out and be noticed, Ishay, to draw attention to the substance of existence, from Yesh, to exist and become substantial, to stand up and be noticed, as Wa, an observant branch, Netza, a secondary stem or shoot which extends from a primary limb, from Nazar, to observe, watch over, and preserve, to closely look after, focus on, and protect, by means of, min, his roots, and that which keeps him anchored, steadfast, and nourished, Shereshu, his base and foundation, that which keeps him firmly established, such that he will continually bear an abundance of fruit, being productive while encouraging productivity in 579 others, Para, so that he will be consistently fruitful while causing and enabling prosperity on behalf of successive generations, Kal imperfect. Yashar, Isaiah 11:1. When initially exposed to the concept of a chota, secondary branch growing out of the main limb of the tree of lives extended through Dowd, we considered a number of possibilities, the most reasonable of which addresses a future individual deployed at a very specific moment in time, one who mirrors the depictions in the prophecy. This person would be rooted and nourished by that which came forth from Ishay, i.e., Dowd, and thus grafted into God's branch. He would be noticed for advocating Dowd's Mizmor on behalf of Israel. Also interesting, especially in the context of a stump, the olive is the tree most representative of the promised land. It is very long-lived, firmly rooted, and produces the oil used to anoint the Mashyach. When an olive tree ceases to be productive, as was the case with Israel, and is cut down or pruned, chota, shoots and suckers sprout out of the ground and off of the truncated branch to bring the sun's energy to the roots of the tree. Chotas rejuvenate the neglected and unproductive tree, such that the title serves as an apt depiction of Yahowah's intent. Digging deeper, September is the best time to re-establish an olive tree from root suckers or stem cuttings, which corresponds to the time of Towrah and, generally, Kippurim. The best results come from finding a sprout or sucker that is the size of the most common of writing implements, a pencil. While suckers already possess roots, pruning shears should be positioned 8 inches from the end of a shoot growing from an otherwise unproductive branch. The best results occur when the shoot's lower third is dipped in beeswax. Bee is the feminine of dabar, word in Hebrew, dabara, and then inserted into familiar soil, representing Israel, with a 580 transparent wrapping enveloping it, symbolic of the Spirit's protection. For the best results, each chota should be planted where it absorbs plenty of light. With support, a supply of water and nourishment, the shoot or sucker will produce an abundant harvest of olives. Our initial search for the identity of the chota was quickly resolved, when we discovered that Solomon had a great deal to say about what he called a Nakri, observant foreigner. Standing atop Moriah with the recently completed temple in the background, Shalomah, reconciliation, Solomon, told Israelites what to expect in the future. Speaking of the promises Yahowah made to his father to guide his people's footsteps, he encouraged the children of Israel to listen to this individual, who would speak to them in Yahowah's name and on behalf of his Zarowah. While this prophecy speaks of a singular chota, it explains how every member of the covenant can serve as a chota on behalf of God's people. The Ruach, as our spiritual mother, is ever ready to enlighten and empower every sheep in Yah's flock. The entire purpose of the chota is to encourage Israelites and even Goim to consider the words of Yah's prophets, and especially Dowd's message on behalf of the Berith and Mikre. We can, indeed, claim the promises Yahowah made to Dowd for ourselves, not by taking them away from him but, instead, by allowing him to share them with us. This is because, Wah, the Spirit, Ruach, the divine power, influence and energy, the discernible feminine essence of manifestation and understanding, the maternal acceptance and support with the protection and light, of Yahowah, will settle and remain on him, Nuvak al-Hu, she was placed upon him, she energizes him and restores him, she is in an alliance with 581 him, dwelling and residing within him, never departing his abode while she enriches the association and assures the most favorable outcome for him, enabling him to be composed and prevail no matter the challenge. Cal perfect third person feminine singular and third person masculine singular, the Spirit, Ruach, providing the capacity to comprehend and then teach, Chakma, offering the mental aptitude and wisdom to learn and instruct, to comprehend and communicate. Providing the technical expertise to be discerning and educate, while, Wah, enabling understanding by making the proper connections to reveal insights, Binah, facilitating the propensity to ponder and process information by being perceptive and discerning, discriminating and judgmental, making intelligent associations which lead to a conceptual comprehension, revealing how to respond after thoughtful consideration, from Bin. Making connections between and among things so as to find patterns and relationships which enlighten, the Spirit, Ruach, of advice and counsel, Eitzah, of pertinent directions regarding how to properly reply, providing prudent consultation on the purpose of the proposal, delivering effective mentoring on how to deliberate relevant decisions, and of being emboldened and inspiring, Wagra, on how to be a confident and courageous leader who is empowering, able to accomplish the mission and perform until it is complete. Providing the aptitude and capability to confirm what is true, offering the mental discipline to be unwavering, championing the cause with integrity and character, always fighting to defend God's people and affirm their rights, the Spirit, Ruach, of knowing and knowledge, Torah, of recognizing where to look for answers and acquiring information, of being aware of the evidence and being able to discern what is relevant and accurate, of discriminating between fact and fiction and right and wrong, so as to recognize and acknowledge the truth, from Yada, to learn and to know, to recognize and 582 acknowledge, to consider and comprehend, to become acquainted and personally familiar, so as Wah, to respect and revere, Yirah, to appreciate the awesome nature, outstanding character, superlative ability, and astonishing greatness and be inspired by, Yahowah. Yashaya, Isaiah 11:2. The Ruach of Yahowah would provide the chota everything needed to know to understand the word of God, educating him so that he might teach. And you'll notice that everything she is offering, including the strength of his conviction, is cerebral. God's people are given the opportunity to think their way home. This is because of 1. The Ruach of Yahowah, the Ruach Kodesh, set-apart spirit would be actively engaged in doing for the chota as she had done for Dowd, providing a direct connection with Yahowah. There would be no intermediaries. 2. The Ruach of Chakma, with the spirit providing the mental aptitude and wisdom needed to learn and then instruct, comprehension would come in an orderly, diligent, and systematic manner, with the technical expertise needed to be a good student and effective teacher. 3. The Ruach of Binah, the Spirit would enable understanding by making appropriate connections that reveal insights, facilitating the propensity to process information in a logical manner, offering the ability to be perceptive and discerning, discriminating and judgmental, so as to reveal how to respond to God after thoughtful consideration. 4. The Ruach of Eitzah, the Spirit of advice and counsel concerning pertinent directions regarding how to properly reply to father and son, providing prudent consultation on the purpose of their proposal, delivering effective mentoring on how to deliberate relevant decisions. 5835, the Ruach of Gra, the Spirit to be like Dowd, competent and courageous, confident and bold, a leader who is empowering and inspiring, able to accomplish the mission and perform until it is complete, providing the aptitude and capability to confirm the truth, offering the mental discipline to be unwavering, excelling by being upright, always fighting to defend God's people and affirm their rights. 6. The Ruach of Dorth, the Spirit of recognizing where to look for answers and how to acquire relevant information, of obtaining knowledge, of being aware of relevant evidence and being able to discern what is applicable and accurate, of discriminating between fact and fiction and right and wrong, so as to recognize and acknowledge the truth. 7. The Ruach of Yada Yahowah, the spirit of respecting and revering Yahowah, appreciating his awesome nature, outstanding character, superlative ability, and astonishing greatness. You will notice, there was no spirit of faith, because it is irrelevant. Spirit of compromise, because God doesn't. Spirit of prayer, because we benefit from listening. Spirit of being good, because being right matters. Spirit of obedience, because the goal is liberation. Spirit of worship, because it is not relevant to family. Spirit of fear, because it's a loving relationship. Spirit of charity, because work is a virtue. Spirit of meekness, because we are called to be bold. Spirit of a pure heart, because our thoughts matter. Spirit of healing, because our bodies aren't relevant. Spirit of miracles, because God does not show off. Yahowah makes it abundantly clear, the Chota is an inspired and enabled witness, and not a prophet. Through 584 the Spirit, he will learn from Yah's Nabi. God has already revealed far more than we need to know to capitalize upon what he is offering. We just need to listen and respond. Additionally, in addition, by accepting the offer and responding appropriately, he will be perceptive, his acceptance and perceptiveness, his nose for the truth, his willingness to respond and supply answers after his virtual meeting will be pleasing, bringing him very close, hyphal infinitive perfect, with regard to developing a profound admiration and respect for, Yirah, with the ability to appreciate the awesome wonderment and astonishing greatness so as to be inspired by, Yahowah. Yahowah, therefore, it will not be by an appearance or vision, Lola Maria, not through visual means or spiritual revelation, miraculous vision, or supernatural phenomenon, seen with his eyes, of his own perceptions or perspectives, appearances or personal understanding, that he will decide, Shafot, that he will confront the evidence and should judge, making decisions. Also, it will not be by hearsay, Lola Mishma, not by rumors or innuendo, not by word of mouth or that which is passed around person to person, nor by heeding unverifiable information, from to question and Shama, listening, heard with his ears, that he will make judgments or prove his arguments, Yakak, should he offer advice or seek to resolve disputes, should he make decisions regarding vindication, complain, or hurl accusations, should he chide, attempt to disprove, or determine who is right, nor debate. Yashaya, Isaiah 11:3. When there are no others who are willing, just being responsive goes a long way. When God introduces himself, we should answer the invitation, accept his 585 offer, and engage accordingly. Those who do, develop a profound respect for Yahowah. It is reassuring that Yahowah affirmed that the Chota would not be a prophet, but would, instead, rely upon them. It is so much better than being a prophet at this late date because there just isn't enough time left to prove divine inspiration. Moreover, by having the Chota rely upon the prior prophets, his witness is easily validated and verified. It also leaves the rabbis without excuse since the insights he's revealing have been available to them for thousands of years. It is also clear that the Chota will be judgmental, and that he will prove his conclusions. His advice will be consistent with Yahowah's counsel because God will serve as the sole source of his guidance. Yahowah has invariably revealed himself to humankind through either a personal appearance, as was the case with Moses and the Torah, or to his prophets through visions and spoken words. Neither would occur in this situation because everything the Chota would share had already been revealed. If Yahowah did not intend to enable the Chota with his spirit, and then use this implement in a profoundly important way, this prophecy regarding his nature and purpose would not have been revealed. But since it not only exists, but is prolific in its explanations, we ought to use it to appreciate what Yahowah is offering and expecting in return. We should contemplate our role in all of this, evaluating what we can contribute to his mission, to make the olive tree that is Yisrael blossom, rooted and fruitful in the land. That is why he is depicted as a Chota, stem. It is what this is all about. He will exercise good judgment, Shafot, he will decide, judging and adjudicating the matter, arguing to resolve disputes, seeking to be accurate, honest, 586 and forthright, tzedek, being fair and correct in accord with the truth, avoiding any conflict or inconsistency with the established standard, with regard to opening the doorway for the discerning, dull, with advice on providing a way in for the few, using spoken words to disclose the entrance on behalf of the unpretentious and societally disenfranchised, from Dala, to draw conclusions and thus be discerning. He will provide proof using sound arguments, Yakak. He will use evidence and reason to decide, judge and correct, engaging in dialogue to resolve disputes while criticizing, accusing, and condemning, making the case to vindicate or convict, hyphal perfect, with, everything out in the open, doing so fairly, by putting everything on the table, on the level, nothing hidden, justly and equitably in a very forthright and direct manner, from Yashar, to be right, approved, and candid, on behalf of, La. The sincere and responsive who are seeking straightforward answers, Anor, those who are willing to reply but who want some assistance from a witness with answers to their questions who is constantly thinking about making such declarations, from Anna, to respond after receiving answers, testifying as a witness, of the land, Eres, of the material realm. Then, Wah, he will strike, verbally attacking and disabling, Naka, he will confront, crippling and incapacitating, sarcastically mocking, chastising, and judging, while pointing out the irony of it all to ravage and defeat, ending lives within, hyphal perfect masculine singular, he will use the staff to strike a debilitating blow for a time at the direction of another, the material realm, Eres, those on the earth, with the rod and staff, Bar Shebet, on behalf of the nation and tribes with the implement, of his mouth and, thus, his voice, Pehu, and with, Wah-Bar, along with, the spirit, Ruach, of his lips and resulting language, Saphahu, his 587 speech, he will devastate, Moth, he will destroy, even kill, the wicked and the wrong, Rasha, the godless whose thoughts, words, and deeds are criminal and evil, of those deserving condemnation for violating the standard, of those guilty of creating disunity and disharmony, translated from 1 Kiza. Yashar, salvation is from Yah, Isaiah 11:4. The Chota will wield the words of God on behalf of those seeking answers. He will do so accurately and honestly. His assessments, conclusions, and insights will be presented in a forthright manner. His arguments on behalf of Yah will be sound, as they will be based upon evidence and reason. But more than anything, his presentation of Yahweh's word will be consistent with the standard God has established. Every thought-provoking statement will lead to the same place, striving for the same result, directing our attention to the doorway Yahweh has provided such that it is open for those seeking entry. But it is not only about life. The Chota will be deployed to do as Dowd has done. He will aggressively and openly expose and condemn everyone contrary to Yahweh and Yahweh. For those open to listening to the words of Yah, his oratory will bring life, and for those in opposition, they will bring death. Based upon the choice of verbs, there will come a place and time when the Chota will be asked to defend Yahweh's flock. His words will become protective weapons. Just as they bring life to those who accept the Father and Son who spoke them, they will be fatal to those who would deny them. Since Yahweh is continuing to speak of his Chota, this is a powerful pronouncement. With his assessments as a matter of life and death, of reconciliation or extermination, this suggests that he will serve with Yah as one of the 2 witnesses during the worst of Jacob's 588 troubles. This is one of the rare occurrences in which God is granting this responsibility and authority to an individual. In the great Isaiah scroll found hidden in the bluffs above Qumran, the text reveals that the wicked and wrong will cease to exist as a result of the words spoken by the Chota, as he is empowered and influenced by the Spirit. But in the Masoretic text, we read, he will kill the wicked. While the result is the same, the process is considerably different, and telling. Not only is the Ruach feminine, not masculine, making the Masoretic text incorrect, but there is also no reason for Yahweh to do anything beyond what he has already stated. The wicked and wrong will cease to exist the moment they are addressed by the Spirit and confronted by the Word of God. Their demise is a consequence of their choices. Having chosen to mislead and abuse his people, they are not fit to live with God or Israel. Their souls, unlike those in the covenant who are the beneficiaries of Pesach, Matzah, Bikurim, and Shabuah, will not endure in Yahweh's presence. They are not properly adorned. They have not answered his invitations to meet. They have not accepted the conditions of the covenant, and thus, they will not receive its benefits. As a result, they will die. When I first read these words, I was not prepared for them. And in my initial translation, I did everything I could to weaken the implications of Naka, strike and disable and mouth, ending a mortal life. It is one thing to verbally expose and condemn those who are wrong, it is another to extinguish their lives. But fortunately for the Chota, the Ruach, Spirit will guide this process because the only things the Chota will be wielding are words. As I mentioned previously, there is a precedent for this power. Yah ended the lives of those within Israel who 589 advocated on behalf of Baal, the Lord, and Asherah, the beneficial. And since Malachi reveals that Yah, Elijah will be one of the 2 witnesses presented in Zechariah 4, serving Israelites in the final days of Jacob's troubles, this suggests that the Chota will be the other. If so, Yah will condemn the wayward among Israel and Yahweh, while the Chota may be there to hold Christians, Muslims, progressives, and the conspiratorial accountable. Being right, correct, and honest, tzedek, being accurate, righteous, upright, fair, and just, redeemed, vindicated, and innocent, rational and in accord with the standard, will be, higher, the belt around his waist, ezor hue, the sash, band, and cloth around his midsection, supporting his back while protecting his core. And, the trustworthy and reliable nature of the witness, emuna, the integrity and dependability of the individual and his testimony, by keeping it real and genuine, steadfast and truthful, honest and valid, from a man, to support and confirm that which is trustworthy and reliable, upholding and verifiable, will serve to gird him, or shalat's hue, the belt and sash around his manhood, virility, and loins, from shalats, to be rescued and delivered, withdrawn and invigorated. Yashar, Isaiah 11:5. Being right matters. Honesty and reliability are vitally important. And while the standard for a witness is different than that of a prophet, in the case of the chota there is so much at stake and so little time remaining, the margin for error is very small. Should his journey through Yahweh's testimony lead to new discoveries, it is essential that he invest the time to set the record straight. Therefore, while this is the first rewrite of Coming Home, other volumes within the Yada Yahowah series have been edited 8 times. Currently, I am correcting everything that does not 590 properly account for the roles of father and son in the fulfillment of the Modim. As the Chota heralds Yahweh's message as we approach Dowd's return on Kippurim, Yahowah uses some rather intriguing word pictures to describe the world we will experience on the cusp of Sukkah. Nothing will be the same. Then the wolf, Wazayeb, the predatory mammal, representing the most infamous Benjamite, Paul, the wolf in sheep's clothing responsible for Christianity, will be an alien, stirring up trouble and strife with his quarrelsome and insidious plans. Grr, will sojourn as a stranger, congregating with the flock while leading them astray, conspiring while scheming a harmful, treacherous, and deceitful response by being rebellious, picking a fight by instigating an attack, Cal perfect. Doing so for a finite period of time, against the lamb, Im Kibs, in opposition to the dominant ram, used in the Torah in conjunction with the Passover lamb and Pesach and, thus Dowd as the Zarawah. And the leopard, Wanema, a spotted and camouflaged predator, symbolic of Nimrod and Babylon, will stretch out ready to pounce, rabats, or will lie in wait, couched and prepared to leap, in association with, Im, the goat, Gadi, a young kid, from an unused root meaning, to cut off, thus symbolic of those on the wrong side of judgment. The adolescent calf, Wa Egel, a weaned cow, from Egel, to revolve, coming full circle, symbolic of Israel and those responsible for the golden calf, and the young lion, Wa Kafir, used as a metaphor for Yahweh, from Kaphis, to connect and Kafir, be covered, who have been rebellious and recalcitrant, Wa Mary, who have been resistant and in opposition, displaying animosity, resisting God's authority, will be together at the same 591 time, Yodor, will be in one accord with Yeh, alike and in one place. And so, this less distinguished steward who is easily determined and known as a servant, Wanakatan, the attendant of a lower social status who can be readily known on behalf of the scattered sheep, shall motivate, lead, and guide them, Nahag Parhem, will be direct and influential among them as he attempts to direct their voluntary movements, Cal participle active masculine singular, meaning that one man will literally and demonstrably influence them. Yashar 11-6. The cow, representing the fruitful and flourishing, Wapara, the abundantly productive fruit, from para, fruitful, and the bear, representing the empowered and capable, Wadaub, a protective and motherly omnivore, from Dob, to be strengthened and become powerful, able to capitalize on all life has to offer, living a favorable existence in a peaceful state, will be shepherded, Ra, will be led to nourishing pastures and flowing waters, protected and guided. Together, Yodor, as one, unified and alike, in the oneness of Yeh, their youth, Yeled Henna, their young children, will lie down, Rabats, will lie and wait ready for action. The lion, as a wild carnivore, Wa'aye, the powerful and regal, meat-eating predator, one of 7 Hebrew words for lion, from Ara, to gather together and pluck away, symbolic of Yahweh, like, Ka, similar to, the ox, as a domesticated herbivore, Habakar, a large herd of grass-foraging animals, especially bulls or oxen, from Bakar, to seek, inquire, and consider, shall consume, Okal, shall eat and be fed, straw, Teban, the stalk of the grain between the ground and the head, used as fodder for livestock and as a building material. Yashar, deliverance is from Yeh, Isaiah 11:7. 592 I have pored over and contemplated every symbolic metaphor in this list, doing what I could to present each with as much insight as possible, but I cannot definitively attest that it precisely expresses Yahweh's intent. But in the end, my take on all of this is that the worst of times will lead to the best of days. The killing will stop, and living will commence, with the fiercest predator becoming an herbivore. Admittedly, given the options at our disposal, I'm rewriting much of what I composed years ago. In light of the many surprising and unexpected findings, the Chota's role is to adapt and reconsider his previous assessments. Nonetheless, our mission is always to strive for accuracy and then go where the words lead. What we know is that life will no longer be read in tooth and claw. The toxins have all been removed. The earth will be much like Eden 6,000 years ago. Life is good for many reasons, one of which is that the serpent will no longer be in residence. In a world transformed in Yahweh's image, children will exemplify the nature reflected in the name he gave to Yitzhak, Isaac, laughter and playfulness. An infant, Yaunek, a suckling child and tender shoot at the early stages of life, will play, Shah, will be delighted, finding great pleasure and enjoyment having fun, over the hole, Alchur, over the den, of the serpent, Python, a poisonous snake or venomous viper, from an unused root meaning to twist. And upon, Wa'al, the nests, Mora, the cavities in the ground where reptiles of a lesser like dwell, of snakes, Siphony, of the poisonous vipers, from an unused root meaning to extrude toxins, a mythical beast akin to a dragon, the reared who is now accountable, Jamal, those raised to be accountable for their actions, shall place his hand, Yod 593 Hugh Harder, will stretch out and put his hand. Yashar, salvation is from Yah, Isaiah 11:8. In a world without Satan, and at a time when there is no longer any religious venom, it will be safe to roam around and play. In this climate, even the youngest will be safe playing independently. The earth will become the happiest place in the universe, just as Yah intended. Full of life and joyfulness, the entire family will exude a harmonious attitude, being in one accord. The absence of evil, corruption and deception is only half of the future equation. For there to be abundant life, a life worth living, goodness, truth, and wholesomeness must prevail. They shall not perpetrate evil, lo-ra, they will not be harmful or troublesome, and will not mistreat or distress anyone, they will neither ruin nor destroy, no longer be bad, injurious or displeasing, imperfect, and they shall not corrupt, while lo-shaketh, they will not pervert or spoil, ravage or ruin, mar or blemish, anything in association with, bar shurl not present in one Kiza, my set apart, Kodesh any mountain, because, ky, for the express reason, the land, eres, the earth and material realm. Shall fully and completely proclaim, male, shall fully accomplish the goal, totally satisfying the requirement. Fulfilling and finishing what shall be confirmed, feminine in one Kiza versus masculine in the mount, the information which can be known about, Dieth, the knowledge required to exercise good judgment regarding the nature of, from one Kiza, Yahowah, the proper pronunciation of the name of Eloah, God as directed in his Torah, teaching regarding his higher, existence and Arshalam, restoration, just as, Ka, the waters, Harmaim, cover, Kasa, overwhelm and conceal 594 or adorn, the sea, La Ha-Yam. Yashar, liberation is from Yah, Isaiah 11:9. Truth will abound. For the first time since Adam walked in the garden, we will all be right. Equally wonderful, with Satan permanently incarcerated in Sheol, there will be no one around to misconstrue God's message, to lead a rebellion, or to degrade our relationship. We shall all know Yahweh on this day because his Torah, guidance will be placed inside of all who survive to enjoy it with him. The Chota's job will be complete. Even the Goim, Gentiles, represented by the sea, will either be covered and adorned in the word of God or overwhelmed by it and concealed from sight. Since it has been re-emphasized, it bears repeating, nothing matters more than Yahweh's name. Without it, there is no relationship, no life beyond our mortality, and no salvation. Jesus, Christ, Allah, Hashem, God, Adonai, and the Lord are no more God than his navel lint. The universe has only one creator, the one who conceived life, the author of the Torah, the inspiration of the prophets, and Dowd's father. And yet, before our return to the garden, it appears that the Chota will have one last hurrah. It will serve as affirmation, a tangible recognition that Yahweh fulfilled his promise to his people. It will also reveal a charming aspect of Yah's nature. Even in the big things, he uses the least impressive among us and then shares the credit with his chosen implements. Therefore, based upon what follows, the Chota will be given the honor of serving as the voice heralding the returning Son, Branch, Messiah, Shepherd, Lamb, and King he has so long admired. And perhaps, even though it would be embarrassing, after performing as instructed and surviving the worst the religious and political could throw at him, Yah might be allowing those, who benefited from what he did through 595 his Chota, to express their appreciation. Should this be so, before the Chota fades into obscurity, he will stand out and be noticed for the banner he and the Spirit scribed for the family. Then, it will occur, it will actually happen, albeit briefly, perfect, in that day which is his time, Yam Ha-Hu, that the root which anchors and nourishes, Sheresh, the base and foundation, the source and family line, that is steadfast and focused on the root of the matter, of Yishay, to stand out and be noticed, Yishay, to draw attention to the substance of existence, from Yesh, to exist and become substantial, to stand up and be noticed, to draw attention, and to be enriched. Who showed the way to the benefits of the relationship, Asher, who served as a guide, leading and directing others to the correct path to walk, to give meaning to life and to experience the greatest blessings and joy, through, La, regarding and concerning by producing and approaching with, the Nes, signal and banner, Nes, sign, banner, from Nes's meaning to lift up, will take a stand and be present, Amod, will stand before someone who is superior. Presenting the means to evaluate the one who appointed and sustains him, providing the means to assess the evidence and make a thoughtful decision, being evaluated himself while standing and unbowed, Kal participle, for the family, Am, for the people who are related, describing the children of Israel and the covenant. Through him, El Hu, toward him as he leads, providing direction to God, Nes is masculine singular, non-Israelites, Gauim, people unrelated to or living outside of Israel, have learned what was not previously known about the relationship, and they will continue to be inquisitive, Derosh, they will have inquired about, searched for, and investigated, expecting to find a responsible presentation about engaging in the 596 relationship with ongoing implications throughout time as they strive to investigate and learn all that can be known, always inquiring and caring, Kal imperfect active, literally and continuously search. And so therefore, Wah, his restful residence, Manukahu, his place of repose and reflection, his comfortable habitation, from Nuvak, spiritual contentment, and Nawa, living in a spiritual dwelling where sheep abide, will exist as, Haya, will be, a reward and a source of enrichment and empowerment, Karbowd, a valuable and dignified gift, existing as a place of abundance, as a manifestation of power, and as an attribution of an inheritance of impressive splendor. Yashar, deliverance is from Yah, Isaiah 11:10. Even when we do not seek attention, we all want to be appreciated for something well done. And what could be better than knowing that many of those who have become covenant will have made their decision based upon what they learned through Yada Yahowah. There will be some appreciative smiles, handshakes, hugs, and words exchanged as we realize just how far we have come together. Those who sought to know Yahowah along with the Chota will now spend eternity exploring the universe with the rest of the family. Eternity's purpose and the source of its joy are derived from Virosh, seeking to know. And yet, after each new adventure, we will return home to rest and reflect upon what we have discovered along life's way. The Chota will be the same in this regard as the rest of Yah's children, in that he will live an empowering and enriching existence as a result of his inheritance. It's good to be one of God's kids. Having told us what he is going to do, and having told us how he is going to do it, Yahowah inspired Yashar 597 to describe the result. There will be a second exodus as Israelites and YYV are called out of the world. So, Wah, it will happen, Haya, it will have occurred, Kal perfect, in that day, during his time, Bah ha Yam ha Hu, my upright one, Downy, the upright pillar of my tabernacle, will once again associate, Yazaph, will increasingly add, again joining, Hyphal imperfect active, his hand, Yod Hu, his influence, power, and control, a second time, Sheni, to reacquire, bring forth, and redeem, Kana, to provide rebirth to, recover, and obtain, the remnant, Ethshar, the remainder and direct relatives who are genetically similar. Of his family, Amhu, his people, the children of Israel, who remain, Ashashar, which to show the way to the benefits of the relationship, out of, Min, away from, Ashur, northern Iran and Iraq, Ashur, to tread upon, Assyria, from, Min, Miraim, lower Egypt, Miraim, the crucibles of oppression, northern Egypt. Out of Pathros, upper Egypt, Min Pathros, subject to a deceptive interpretation, perhaps the Copts and Bedouins from southern Egypt, from, Min, Cush, Arabian Peninsula, Cush, dark and unknown, out of, Min, Elam, southwestern Iran, Elam, conceal, Persia, from, Min, Shinar, Iraq, Babylon, Shinar, confluence of rivers, Babylonia, out of, Min, Shamot, Syria, Shamot, military fortress, Syria, and from, Min, the coastlands the inhabited shores of countries between or surrounded to some extent by large bodies of water, notably, Lebanon, the United States, Canada, Central, and South America, Western, Southern, and Northern Europe, Turkey, India, New Zealand, Australia, and North and South Africa, of the sea, Ha-Yam, of the Gentiles. Yashar, salvation is from Yah, Isaiah 11:11. Prior to mentioning why Ha-Yam, inhabited coasts, or lands surrounded by water, God appeared to be describing 598 what we have referred to as geographic Babylon. These are places infected with Islam today. That's interesting because DNA research is now revealing a very high concentration of Jews living in these places. And in most cases their forefathers converted to Christianity and then Islam under threat of death. It would be in distinction to religious and political Babylon, represented by the Roman Catholic Church and the United States, both replete with vestiges of Rome and home to countless Yahwim. Now that we know that Yahowah will be calling Yahwim out of northeastern Africa, the Arabian Peninsula, Iraq, Iran, and Syria, and from throughout ancient Babylon, we can use the dominant male haplogroup, Y-DNA, as our guide to assess the percentage of these peoples who are Jewish on their father's side. But first, this disclosure: DNA testing has not been done randomly, and only on a small percentage of these people. Further, we are relying exclusively on the dominant male haplogroup in our extrapolations. As a result, while the tests are conclusive and accurately portrayed, it is very likely that only those with innate personal curiosity who are most open to scientific inquiry among Muslims would have allowed themselves to be tested, artificially skewing the result by a factor of 10 or more. Therefore, in our quest to be reasonable, I've downgraded the results across the board tenfold. Iranian Persians, 38% of 81 million equals 30.8, and thus 3.1 million Jews. Iranian Kurds, 60% of 6 million equals 3.6 and thus 0.4 million Jews. Egypt, 21% of 97 million equals 20.4 and thus 2.0 million Jews. Assyrians, 12% of 1.6 million equals 0.2 and thus 0.02 million Jews. Iraqi Sunni Arabs, 64% of 11 million equals 7.0 and thus 0.7 million Jews. Iraqi Shia Persians, 35% of 22 million equals 7.7 and thus 0.8 million Jews. 599 Iraqi Kurds, 18% of 5 million equals 0.9 and thus 0.09 million Jews. Syria, 33% of 18 million equals 6.0 and thus 0.6 million Jews. Saudi Arabia, 40% of 33 million equals 13.2 and thus 1.3 million Jews. Qatar, 58% of 2.5 million equals 1.5 and thus 0.2 million Jews. UAE, 34% of 9.5 million equals 3.2 and thus 0.3 million Jews. Kuwait, 33% of 4.1 million equals 1.3 and thus 0.01 million Jews. Oman, 38% of 4.6 million equals 1.7, and thus 0.2 million Jews. Yemen, 72% of 28 million equals 20.2 and thus 2.0 million Jews. Only a tiny fraction of these 10 million individuals know that they are Jewish. If more were to know, it would be a shock due to the anti-Semitic nature of Islam. After the Muslim conquests, having had their forefathers convert to Islam rather than die, most are far too corrupted by their satanic religion to hear Yah's voice. Wouldn't it be wonderful if, after reading Prophet of Doom and then Yada Yahowah, an introduction to God, observations, questioning Paul, Babel, and coming home, thousands of Israelites emerged from geographical Babylon to become part of the covenant family? The combination of the internet, smartphones, social media, and our numerous sites and pages make this possible. Moving elsewhere, there are many inhabited coasts around the world, too many in fact to list. Smaller in number is the list of nations completely surrounded by water. It would include the UK, Ireland, and Crete, Taiwan, the Philippines, and Indonesia, along with New Zealand and Australia. While there are many countries mostly enveloped by the sea, some of the most relevant include India, Turkey, Greece, Italy, Spain, the United States and Canada, along with the Central American nations. There are also several intriguing implications associated with Y which may help us in our quest to 600 understand. It serves to negate a statement and thus may include those whose lives are negated because of their statements. This could include Christians, Muslims, and secular humanists. Y depicts a carnivorous nocturnal animal, like a jackal or hyena which is prone to howl. It is also used to describe demonic spirits, ghosts, and goblins, even the walking dead from distant lands. Y is an interrogatory which asks, why and for what purpose? Especially revealing, Y is another way to express Howie, woe, making it synonymous with the United States, in that it was subject to the ultimate woe prophesied in Yeshaya 18. In fact, Y was used to describe America in that prophecy. Of those who acknowledge that they are Jewish, over 7 million reside in the United States. Strong's lexicon suggests that Y is derived from awa, meaning to covet and desire, longingly waiting and greedily expecting. It can also convey lust. Now there is an interesting word study with fascinating implications. Yah's comments on the Chota's contribution conclude with, so, Wah, he will lift up, Nasa, he will at a point in time raise and bring forth, he will bear and carry, Kal perfect, a signal and banner, Nez, sign, Vanna, from Nesi's meaning to lift up, for the Gentiles and their nations, Yawim, for ethnicities, people, and places other than Israel. Then, Wah, he will gather together and remove, Asaph, he will collect and assemble as in a harvest, bringing together and withdrawing, Kal perfect, the straying and scattered, Nadak, the banished of the diaspora, who were expelled and forced to live in a different 601 place, of Israel, individuals who engage and endure with God. And, Wah, the dispersed, Pools, the scattered who are away from home and shattered, of Yahweh, beloved and related to Yah, he will gather up and obtain, Kabats, he will collect, assemble, and relocate as a result of the relationship, harvesting them, Peel imperfect, from, Min, the four, Arba, extremities, Kanaf, distant places, corners, or borders, from Kanaf, to be thrust aside and hidden from view, to be cornered, of the earth, Eres, material realm. Yashar, liberation and salvation are from Yah, Isaiah 11:12. This will be the last call before the curtain drops. Yah is calling his people home and along with them receptive Gentiles. We do not know how many will have read the Nes, sign, banner, from Nis's meaning to lift up, but it is certain that they all concur with its contents. This is all so picturesque and poignant. When Yahweh invited Yashar to Shamaim and opened heaven's door, the great prophet lamented because there was no one standing outside ready to enter. But God's story was far from over. For the solace of his prophet and benefit of his people, Yahweh revealed how, in a distant place and time, an implement described as a chota would be enlightened and emboldened by his spirit such that his words would resonate with Yisrael. The chota would compose a Nes, sign, banner, from Nis's meaning to lift up, to convey the message the prophet had been inspired to write to a world finally willing to listen. Yashar would live up to his name, Dowd would return to center stage, and as a result, all will be right with the world as Yahweh is acknowledged by his 602 people. Soon, there will be thousands gleefully dancing through Passover's door. Original composed on Pesach, April 8, 2020.